All the way from the start, I can feel it in my heart, like all the way from the start.
Hey, what's going on out there? I'm Sean Devine. Hope you all are doing well. Today I've got a new video. This is by request. Had someone ask me, how do I get my thin vocals to be warmer, more thick, to sit better in the mix, and just have more impact and some heat to them? So I'm going to show you a couple of plugins that you may not be familiar with, some cool stuff, and some techniques that I haven't really covered on the channel. I have shown a few plugins that are kind of go-tos for this in the past, but there's a lot of different ways to remedy this thin vocal situation. So let me go ahead and play back this verse. This is by Moses Stone, R&B track, and the vocal recording was a little bit thin, and so we'll talk about what I did here to fatten things up.
We don't even talk no more. Changing. Why you act different now? Switch the game up. Now you out here going wild. I see you raging. Act like you don't know me now. It feels strange now on me. Gave you some time to get it right. You let it go to your head when I was holding you down.
So let's talk about what's going on here. This is my vocal chain. Got a couple of parallel sends here we're going to talk about, but let me just disable everything just so you can hear the dry vocal that I was sent. I'm going to solo it, and then we'll activate it so you can get a really good listen here.
We don't even talk no more. Changing. Why you act different now? Switch the game up. Now you out here going wild.
All right, and now with everything except I'm going to leave the reverb off.
We don't even talk no more. Changing. Why you act different now? Switch the game up. Now you out here going wild. I see you raging.
So let's talk about the first aspect here, or technique that I'm using, and this is some saturation, specifically the SSL x-saturator. And I've got this plus 6 dB. We're really giving it some fire, some heat. So I'm going to disable it and enable it so you can hear the difference.
We don't even talk no more. Changing. Why you act different now? Switch the game up. Now you out here going wild. I see you raging. Act like you don't know me now. It feels strange now for me.
So you can hear as I enable that and disable it, it definitely just gives us a lot more energy, puts the vocal a little hotter in the mix, and even with the beat, you're going to tell a really big difference. But let's talk about the other parallel chain that I've got here is the sound shifter from Waves. This is a bit of an unorthodox practice. This may not be for everybody, but it does the job, and it worked for what I needed it to do in this mix. But basically, I'm just using a send, and then we're going down here, and we're going into this sound shifter pitch, and I'm just going to turn this up so you can hear it. But what I'm doing is I'm just octaving this entire send down 12 semitones. And then I have a heavy EQ where I'm just focusing, between about 100 all the way up to about 500. But if I turn that off, we've got this.
We don't even talk no more. Changing.
So just chopped and screwed kind of sound. But when we do that, we're just getting the tonality. So we don't even know, what's being said. It's more of just something that's going to be mixed in. I'll let you hear it with and without.
Now you out here going wild. I see you raging. Act like you don't know me now.
You hear that? It's very subtle when I turn it back on, but in the context of the mix, gives us just that little harmony, and you're not going to notice it, just going to fill some of those frequencies in. The other thing that I want to point out is that I'm utilizing multiple compressors on this vocal, and this is something I've talked about before. I'll put a link to another video where I cover this in depth. But anytime you have a really thin vocal, it's important to utilize some different compressors, because each one of these is going to give you some different tones, some different flavor. I found that compressors like the Pro C are more transparent. They're a little more surgical. They're much more of just kind of a utilitarian compressor. There are some different styles here, but I generally use it for that. And then something like the Renaissance compressors or the Renaissance Vox, this has a much warmer, more vintage style tone. So then I also will, combine that with multiband compression, which is what we're doing here to tame some of those highs. And then finally, we're using a de-esser. So a lot of you out there are going to associate thin, harsh vocals with having sibilance. So if we play this back without my de-esser, let's just play that.
Some time to get it right. You let it go to your head when I was holding you down. Patient with all your mistakes. Only so much I can take. Promise you I would've stayed, but girl.
So I've got some very aggressive de-essing going on. You can see the attenuation there, but without it, it's very harsh and it just immediately gives you that sense of thinness and brittleness. So using a de-esser heavily like this and really dialing it in precisely is going to give you a much warmer, thicker tone. All right, so a couple of cool techniques and plugins that I'm using specifically in this vocal chain to get a thicker vocal. You can use all this stuff to taste. The key here is that we want to use all these things very subtly, but all together and in the context of the mix, it makes a really big difference. And the way that your vocal is perceived by the listener is going to be a lot different. You're going to have a lot more of that thickness, that warmth, and just more of a welcoming tone to it. So I hope this helps you guys. If you have any questions about any of the techniques here or the plugins, feel free to leave a comment below. I'll also leave a link below to the plugins I used if you want to check them out. If you learned anything in the video, please like, subscribe, and consider sharing. We'll talk to you soon.
Respect my grinding every day, get real. They recognize how we do it. Just stepped outside and it's fluid. Some hesitate and we knew it, but we ain't gotta overthink through it. They recognize how we do it.